Hey guys, it's Vandiazo back again for the Card 5 Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. Let's get one started. Today, we have Megacolony, Master Beetle. If you don't remember this thing from the original Vanguard series, it was pretty much used by, one time in the anime, by Kiyoya Hagi, I don't remember how to, I'm pretty sure his name's Kyo, and he used this during his Season 2 era where every time he played, he basically changed decks. There was his Spike Brother Bigfoot Bear thing, the Dudley Emperor deck. There was this one, and I'm pretty sure he had a third one, but I don't remember what it is. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And Master Beetle had, like, kind of, it was an okay card. Like, it was definitely one of my favorites back in the day, but I never really saw anyone use it, mainly because I wasn't around in Vanguard that day, but then I never saw anyone talk about it, typically. So, it's a good thing that came back to V, and I think it's really good. So let's go ahead and get started. First up, we have our starter and Mutant Dorcas. 6k base, 10k shield, grade 0 with boost. Auto was wrote upon, draw a card, and if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 1 or greater, get a quick shield, take it to your hand. Standard ability, you get a draw guaranteed, and then you get a possible quick shield, which is a 5k shield they normally use for discard fodder. And that's really good in Master Beetle just because, like, Master Beetle skill is a discard, so, you know, easy cost to pay for that, all around decently good starter. And the reason why I keep running this in all of my builds that isn't machinings is because machinings, they only have two starters in Megacolony for some reason, and one of them is a machining. And because I like to stick to non-archetypal cards if I have a choice, that means the machining starter stays in the machining deck. So, and then this is the only one that's not a specific, I mean, it's kind of specific, but it's not really specific, and because it has Mutant and Master Beetle has Mutant, its card name, good enough for me. So that's our starter. Our trigger lineup is we got 8 crits, 4 of them being Shelter Beetle, 4 of them being Sharp-Nail Scorpio, 4 draw PG, and Paralyze Madonna. Continue Sentinel, you have to 4 Sentinels in your deck. Auto Guard Circle, when it's placed, to discard a card from your hand, and one of yours cannot be sent to battle. Standard PG ability, nothing too special about it, it's just a draw PG. Get you hand cards. For some reason, these never want to get drive checked outside of the early game. When I say outside of the early game, I mean grade 3 Vanguard's first swing. That's the only time I'll see a crit. Afterwards, I'd never see crits again. Then again, I'm trying a strategy here where I reverse psychology the deck, because I remember the day that I did my Bastion deck profile, and honestly I don't know how these uploads are going to go because I'm literally changing my upload schedule on the spot here, but the day I did my Bastion deck profile, I also recorded my Bastion game, and I said something in my Bastion deck profile that always happens, and in the Bastion game, it didn't happen at all. So I'm pretty much thinking that if I just say here that I don't get criticals outside of the early game, I'll get criticals in the late game too. Hopefully not just restricted to late game, but still. So we run 8 crits, and then we have our 4 draw PG, and then we have our 4 heal in Snowflake, Mutant, Snowtrick. Honestly, just my favorite heal. It's beautiful, it's pretty, it has snow in it, so 4 copies. Also, I like the tree in the background. Next up, we have 3 copies of Stealth Millipede. Grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 7k base, continues rearguard. If this unit is rest, all of your opponent's rearguard is in the same column as it cannot stand. So, if this mofo is at rest, if only it specified, if it only just said units and not specified rearguards, because then this thing would be a bit too, I understand it would be a bit too good just because, you know, put it behind the Vanguard, and I'll get to his other skill later, but no one's going to take the Vanguard attack, so they just guard it, and then the permanent Vanguard of resting. I feel like that would make Megacolony a bit too good, but it would add a lot of pressure that I feel like they would need to not be like the worst of the worst, according to other people's opinion. I don't personally think Megacolony's the worst deck out there. If it is, then so be it, but I don't think it's the worst. I do have my mind set on another deck for that. Maybe because of personal bias, maybe because the stupid blue machine refuses to let me check a fucking front. Who knows? Who knows? I won't say what it is. And then auto rear, when it's attack or the attack and boosted hits, put this unit to soul and countercharge when it is effect mandatory, which is why I said earlier, like, if you put it behind Vanguard, people wouldn't take it because no one with a brain will take the Vanguard, especially in this deck where the Vanguard has quad drive or possible quintet drive. So it's just a really good ability because, you know, it adds on hit pressure, because if they let this hit, you get a countercharge for free and you get a soul. But the downside is they'll take a damage, but at the same time they want to let this hit because if they don't let this hit, anything in this thing's column will not be able to stand. So, oh, it's at all. Oh, they can't stand at all. Oh god, that's so much better. I don't know why I always forget that ability, but it's genuinely cannot stand at all. Not just stand during the stand phase, not stand at all. All around this thing's really good. It's for free. It adds pressure. Honestly, probably one of the best cards Megacolony has going for it. 3 of. 3 of Phantom Black. I rarely use this guy because I keep forgetting how his skill works. Grade 1, boost, 10k shield, 8k base. Auto rear, when it boosts, discard a card from your hand until end of battle. Until end of battle, it gets +6, and your opponent cannot call normal units from hand to guard circle. Basically, a way to restrict normal units and force them to guard out with their triggers, which is most likely going to happen because you have quad drive all the time, or at least for me, because I can never hit quintet drive because no one will give me one more rear guard. But it's a really easy ability to pull off. Just a discard, gets you +6. And you can nullify normal units, making it harder for them to guard. Like, it's nothing too special, it's nothing too bad, though. It's definitely a good card, so 3 of. 4 of New Face Mutant Little Dorcas. 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost, continues van and rear guard during your turn. If your opponent has no stand units, it gets +5. Okay, I don't remember how many cards in this deck can just force rest units, but I know one of them can force rest 2 of them if at least one of them is on the board, so that's an automatic +5 more regardless, because I don't think anyone's going to just keep one unit standing. And Auto Vandereer, when placed, look at top 5 cards of your deck, reveal it to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card, you gotta discard 1. Okay, cool. A good ability, just gets you a free search of your grade 3s. I give it a 4, just because, like, you know, you want to draw into that Master Beetle, and the 5k is really easy to pull off. Definitely not one of the easiest 5ks to pull off. That honor goes to the one of, in my opinion, the Dimension Police one, which literally just says if your Vanguard's a grade 3, if your Vanguard's a grade 3, it gets +5. That is literally the easiest ability to pull off because all you have to do is play the game, and he gives you a search for it, so 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of Brillian Blister, 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost, auto back or rear guard circle at the end of your turn. If your opponent has no rear guards at stand, bounces to hand, and then if you're returned to hand and you have 6 of hand cards, Soul Blast 1 to draw a card. Okay, this deck has a good amount of soul, like there's no soul problem. I mean, if you play it a certain way, you can get to a soul problem, but that involves your opponent living long enough, and for the way this to occur, your opponent would probably die long before you end up getting to that soul problem. And auto, when it's put into guard circle, if your opponent's Vanguard is at rest, Soul Blast 1 and discard a card, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, rest in and cannot stand until the end of turn. Yeah, the first match I used against this was Polaris. You can imagine how pissed off the Polaris player was when their ambush triangle that was going to get the restand from Polaris and restand Polaris got shut down by this thing because the ambush triangle could no longer stand. I mean, granted, the Polaris player won in the end because I made a cocky decision based off of my hand literally being half PGs, and then the other... I had like 6 hand cards left, 4 of them were PGs, and then 2 of them were this thing. So I went for 2 to pass. Yeah, either way, it's like a good card. It's like a pseudo-denial Griffin to some extent. And the best part is, like, he can get rid of front row regards, you know. Really good card, with being a pseudo-denial Griffin and everything. Bounces himself to hand guaranteedly and possibly gets you a draw if you're going at disadvantage. And a really good card in an early rush because you can just call 2 of them to the front row like I did, get in an early rush, do a drive check. Hey, maybe you're like 4 hand cards, bounce them both, and because of how it works, one of them will go off. No, both of them will go off if you time it right. So I think, yes, because if you're at 4 hand cards counting the drive check, when 1 bounces, oh no, you have to be at 3 hand cards, 4 brings it to the drive check. No, you have to be at 2 hand cards. It doesn't matter. Point is, really good card, 4 of. And that's art 2. Next up, we have 3 copies of Bloody Hercules, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 intercept, auto rear, when placed, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets +6k for the turn. So automatically a really good ability. Like I said earlier, you don't really have much of a soul problem. This is the only card that goes to soul, and one other card that can send stuff to soul. So it's not that hard to pull that off. And it acts as a really good card for like a rush or finisher move, just in case you need the power. And auto van or rear, when its attack hits, anything can be van or rear, countercharge 1, and one of you gets +6k for the turn. So really nice that he can pump up another unit if he hits, or himself, by the way. It just has one of your units, so it can pump himself up too. But it also can pump up a Vanguard, not just a rear guard, and he gets you a counter charge for free. And the only downside is he has to hit for it, but he can hit anything. All around, Bloody Hercules is a really good card, and at least in my opinion, like, I notice every time I build a deck, more or less, there's always at least one staple that goes into every deck of that nation. More or less, like sometimes it changes. Maybe it's a trigger just because I like that trigger. Maybe it's a starter for the same reason. Maybe it's a grade 1, 2. Maybe it's most likely it's probably a grade 1 or 2 that I just like using because it fits my style really well. Hercules is definitely one of them where I try to fit into every Megacolony deck that isn't an archetype one, Machinings, because solely just Hercules is really good. Like, he gets you that counter charge, he gets you that power, and he was kind of the reason why I considered running Megacolony during the time I couldn't counterblast. So 3 copies. 4 copies of Spear Attack Mutant Megacolony Lancer, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto rear. When it attacks a vanguard, it gets +2 until end of battle for each of your opponent's rested rear guards, and then you may put a rear guard to soul, and your opponent can intercept for the turn. Okay, locking down intercept doesn't really matter too much because there is another card in this deck that can lock down an intercept, but pretty nice that he can lock him down on his own by getting a soul, so that's really nice that he can fill up your soul while also getting you a buff out of it. But then also, just by swinging alone, he doesn't have to do the other half of the skill, but just by swinging, he gets +2k for each of your opponent's rested rear guards, and typically, like, they always have at least 2, so like, from what I see, unless they're playing a control deck, most players always call at least 2 rear guards, like, in the field at the same time, so that's at least a 13k swing. Alright, Megacolony is pretty good. He gets you power. He's definitely, like Hercules, like a staple just because he gets you a free soul and he gets you power. And I also like his art because he looks really cool. So, 4 of Nasty Smog, 9k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Continuous rear guard, all of your opponent's units in the same column as this unit cannot intercept. Okay, already that's really good. But then also, continues rear guard all of your opponent's rear guards in the back row, the same column as it cannot stand during his or her stand phase. So basically, lock down the back row. You don't even need this thing. I mean, you can use it for the front row one, but you don't even need it because this one can lock down the back row, which is really good for slowing down plays. And you can just call them, like, and this is a reiteration of something from before. You can call 3 of these to the back row and your opponent can't do anything because they won't be able to kill them unless they're playing a deck that can retire, lock, bounce, etc. And their back row will be locked down. And their intercepts will be locked down because it doesn't have to be in the front row for either of these effects to go off. And I learned this the hard way by playing against Mandala using Machinings. I regret giving him access to Nasty Smog. I literally told him, put in Nasty Smog. And he did. And I regretted that decision almost immediately once I learned about this, and I now suffer against that literally every time I play against his Machining deck. So, 4 copies of Nasty Smog, just a really good grade 2 who can lock down intercepts and lock down boosters. 4 copies. And you can just do the triple trick star play with them and put them in the back row, and then your opponent can't touch it without using effects. And then we're on to grade 3s. 4 copies of Pincer Attack Mutant Intrude Scissors, 12k base, grade 3 twin drive Protect Gift, auto drop zone at the end of the battle, your grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacked. If a new card was put into your opponent's damage zone this turn, counterbalance 1 call to rear. Okay, that's not really that hard, but it's not that, like, I mean, it's not really that hard, but it's not that easy either. Like, most of the time your rear guards swing for minuscule numbers. They'll only take it if they really need to take it for counterblast purposes. But the Vanguard, though, typically swings for at least triple drive or quad drive. For me, it's always been quad drive, just because my rushing tactic with this deck and being able to fill up hand cards really quickly, and then my opponent just adding like 1 or 2 additional rear guards to it allows me to get quad drive really quickly. But this thing is kind of easy to pull off because, you know, the Vanguard, if you have enough counterblast, can get like a free power plus to himself if you're on Master Beetle, and makes his numbers bigger with quad drive, so unless they're rolling a PG and take no damage that turn, this thing's most likely going to go off. But downside is you have to counterblast for him, and you do have less counterblasters in this deck than normal decks, but you know, still counterchargers, so I think it's fine. And then his other skill is auto rear guard. When placed soul blast 1, choose one of your rear guards, stand, and this unit gets +10 for the turn. So basically, this becomes a 22, and you stand a unit. Yeah, this is what you use it for. It's like a final finisher. You don't really want to use it too much because you're counterblast heavy, but like if your opponent's like at 5 damage and you can push, especially because quad drive. Oh, I remember if I had 1 more counterblast, it would have been game over for the Polaris player because I had literally drive checked it was crit, draw, normal unit, heal, and I put it all on 1 rear guard. That was +30 to a rear guard, and they were at 5 damage, but I didn't have any counterblast left. If I had just gotten 1 more counterblast, and they didn't see any triggers either, if I had 1 more counterblast, I could Intrude Scissors, because he can go to a closed rear guard circle, not an open one, stand the unit that was rested that got the +30, this gets +10, swing for game. All-around Intrude Scissors is a really good card, and a really easy finisher to pull off, and I like him for that. 4 of. He's also good discard file just to get him in drop. And you can also use him without placing him from drop. The skill to +10 is just that the stand skill isn't really that useful. And then finally, our last normal unit and our last unit in general is our main grade 3 Martial Arts Mutant Master Beetle. It's an okay art. I definitely think it's fine. I don't like it. I don't hate it either. Grade 3 200 Protect Gift, 12k base. Active and rear once per turn. Counterblast 1. Choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards and rest them, and they cannot stand during the next standby phase. And if this, or during the next stand phase, not standby phase. And if this unit is on Van, this unit gets the chosen power. This unit gets the chosen unit's original power until end of turn. So You paralyze 2 rear guards. Say, for example, you're playing, in my case, I was playing against the Polaris again. They had a Compass Lion and a Measured Fusa. That is plus 22 to Vanguard, which means this boy was swinging for 34 on his own. That's really easy to pull off. Like, it's only 1 counterblast. You paralyze 2 rear guards, and he can get power. And the best part is, the first half of that ability, the paralyzing part, it can be done on rear too, just the power won't be given because I'd be a bit too good. But the paralyzing part can still be done on rear, and all around that's a really good ability. And if they stopped there, like maybe made the second skill just continuous Vanguard during your turn, all of your rear guards get plus 3k for each of your opponent's rested units, it would still be pretty good. But it decided to take a different route with it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I do like the quad drive more than I like the other one, because it gives this deck a lot more defenses. It means I can play a lot more aggressively. Auto Van, when this unit attacks, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand. This unit gets plus 1 drive until end of battle for every 3 of yours and your opponent's rear guards at rest. So if you have 3 and your opponent has 3, it gets plus 2 drives, so it has 4 drives. If collectively you have 10, regardless of how many each player has, then that would be plus 3 drives. So that is all assuming that you're not playing against an Excel deck. I only got quad drive just because they wouldn't call a board, but yeah, this thing can hit a good number of drive checks just by swinging. So all around, that's really nice. And is not once per turn. And it's just not once per turn. Do they expect us to find a way to restand the Vanguard? I mean, granted, it's until the end of battle, but it's not once per turn, which is just the funny part. But all around, it's a good card. I've ran this with Protect 1 and with Protect 2 too. I feel like, well, first off, this is a genuinely good card. It's like 4 of, get you the Paralyze, get you possible extra drives, get you possible big numbers. Does really great for a Megacolony deck, and I'm really glad that they brought it back. Anyways, on to our gifts. 6 copies of Protect 1, 6 copies of Protect 2. Don't worry, I will finish my statement in a second. Protect 1 is basically a PG where when you get it, you add the marker to your hand, and it's a Sentinel, and you know what Sentinels do. When placed on guard circle, discard a card, it becomes a PG. And Protect 2, when acquired, it goes on a rear guard circle. You only gets plus 5 and 10k when intercept. So it's a 15k interceptor, or a 20k interceptor if it's a grade 1, or a 10k interceptor if it's a grade 3. I'm not going to explain all of them. And it's a 14k base typically because you put that on a grade 2. So that's really easy. And then our quick shield, which is when one of your attacks, gets plus 5k for the battle. So just a quick little 5k, but you typically discard this for Master Beetle skill, or maybe for this boy skill, or this boy. And that's pretty much it for it. Now, this deck is honestly very fun. It allows me to be here's the thing, my problem with Protect decks is typically I cannot be aggressive with them. Like, Grand Blue, that's why it's one of my favorite Protect decks, because it has 7 Cs, which is just really aggressive. It has Cocytus, which can be somewhat aggressive, Night Rose, who can also be somewhat aggressive, and Pennant Noir, who can also be aggressive. Like, none of those decks are, all of those decks are like examples of an aggressive Protect deck, and I really like them for that, because I'm more of a multi-tech type person. Something like Megacolony beforehand, the most they could get is like 4 attacks due to Venom Stinger. 5 attacks due to Venom Stinger. But before because Venom Stinger gave us Intrude Scissors, what I mean from that. But like before Venom Stinger got released with Intrude Scissors, Megacolony at most could get like 3 attacks, and it was kind of boring. And I really like Protect. Just, it's a good defensive option. It gives you good power, and I really like how this deck can just, be aggressive with it. Like, you can get a lot of hand cards. You can still go for a rush, and the only downside is just the amount of counterblast you use. But I'm pretty sure if I changed around to add more countercharge, which we have plenty of, the deck wouldn't have any problems whatsoever. All around, deck is really fun. I enjoy playing it. Definitely something I'm going to try to pick up. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.